The skies over the Middle East are no longer blue. They are bruised. For over a week now, the air has vibrated with the percussion of war, the roar of engines, the shriek of sirens, and the shattering thunder of missile impacts. What began as a simmering proxy conflict has mutated into a direct kinetic clash between two regional titans, Iran and Israel, each armed with resolve and retaliation. This isn't just a war of territory, it is a war of spectacle and endurance. Every sunrise threatens vengeance. Every sunset cloaks dread. Gone are the days of covert operations and deniable drone strikes. Now, Haifa, Beersheba, and Tel Aviv are etched into global headlines for reasons no nation desires. The exchange is no longer rhetorical. It is ballistic, precise, and lethal. Iran's military calculus is on full display. No longer hiding behind proxies, Tehran has begun deploying Sigil missiles, solid-fuel, long-range, hard-to-intercept projectiles designed to punch through even the most sophisticated air defenses. In response, Israel leans heavily on its multi-tiered shield. Iron Dome intercepts short-range salvos. David's sling handles the medium-range threats, and the Arrow system watches the horizon for strategic strikes. But recent barrages have saturated even these vaunted defenses, proving that in the age of massed missile warfare, no dome is impenetrable. The civilian cost is visible in everyday horrors. In Tel Aviv's Wolfson Hospital, maternity wards have moved underground. Mothers give birth to the sound of falling missiles. Playgrounds are silent. Streets have turned into grid lines of fear. Now, with reports of cluster munitions surfacing, the conflict has entered a new phase of morale peril. These aren't just explosions. They're echoes of the future. Echoes that speak not of victory, but of a world unraveling under the weight of steel, fire, and vengeance. When the missiles screamed through the northern skies and detonated in the port city of Haifa, it wasn't just the earth that trembled, it was Israel's sense of invulnerability. The thunderous blast ricocheted off cargo cranes and container terminals, sending shockwaves across one of Israel's key industrial hubs. Residents, caught between sirens and silence, fled underground in a mass exodus of fear. Subway stations, parking basements, and bomb shelters became sanctuaries in a city now on the front lines. Haifa, Israel's maritime artery, had never looked so vulnerable. Yet what followed was even more jarring. In Tel Aviv, where economic power pulses through skyscrapers, Iran's missile reached deeper, not just physically, but symbolically. The Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, a fortress of finance, had its glass facade shredded by shockwaves. Traders abandoned terminals mid-transaction. In mere minutes, billions in economic confidence evaporated. This was not a stray shot. It was a message written in shrapnel. We can reach your core. And then came the refinery strike. Bezan Ikon, one of Israel's largest oil processing complexes, was rocked by coordinated missile strikes. Critical pipelines erupted into flame. Fuel distribution lines were cut off. The timing couldn't be more precise, just as Israel's summer energy demand peaked. Officials, grim-faced, admitted that regional fuel distribution had been paralyzed, and emergency reserves would be strained to keep cities alight. Iran, through its media arm and defense ministry, claimed all strikes were on military-adjacent targets, covert bases camouflaged as civilian structures. But no matter the intention, the result was psychological warfare at its finest. This wasn't just about knocking out logistics. It was about unbalancing a nation's rhythm, its economy, its people, and its sense of order. Haifa burned, Tel Aviv rattled, and the war line had shifted from borders to beating hearts. It was a sound unlike others, sharp, scattered, simultaneous. In the quiet city of Beersheba, that sound shattered illusion and ignited fear. In the aftermath of one of Iran's missile attacks, what emerged was not a single crater, but a constellation of smaller impact points, a deadly mosaic. Intelligence sources and forensic teams confirmed what many feared. Iran had escalated the war by deploying cluster munitions. Cluster bombs, infamous for their wide area saturation, scattered dozens, sometimes hundreds, of bomblets from a single payload. They do not simply strike a point, they spray destruction. In Beersheba, over 20 such bomblets reportedly detonated across parks, roads, and residential blocks. A children's daycare center was hit. A playground, moments earlier filled with laughter, became a field of scorched rubber and broken glass. The term coil of fire used by analysts wasn't poetic. It described a literal spiraling pattern of flame that arced through the neighborhood. The Israeli Home Front Command released footage and images showing fragment trails stretching up to 7 kilometers from the missile's airburst point. This pattern, they argue, makes any claim of precision targeting implausible. Although no fatalities were immediately confirmed, dozens sustained injuries, and the emotional scars may run deeper than physical wounds. Toddlers survived by mere seconds. A caretaker had rushed them to a reinforced corridor just before the blast. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the International Committee of the Red Cross condemned the action swiftly. While both Israel and Iran remain outside the 2008 Convention on Cluster Munitions, the weapons use reignited global debate. Beersheba now joins cities like Kharkiv, Fallujah, and Aleppo, urban centers marked forever by indiscriminate technologies. In a conflict already mired in moral ambiguity, the appearance of cluster bombs marks a harrowing descent. Less a tactic of war, more a betrayal of humanity. As images of collapsed nurseries and cracked hospital corridors flooded social media, the Israeli government responded with fierce condemnation. Officials accused Iran of deliberately targeting civilian zones, citing strikes that hit a daycare center in Beersheba and damaged sections of a hospital in Ashkelon. In one widely shared video, nurses in surgical masks sprinted down corridors while missile sirens wailed, punctuating the claim that Iran had crossed a red line. But Tehran was quick to deny any intent to harm civilians. Iranian military spokesmen claimed the real targets were defense technology parks and intelligence bunkers hidden in proximity to urban structures. "We are employing precision-guided missiles," a statement read, "designed to avoid unnecessary casualties. Civilian damage is collateral, not intentional." The rebuttal referenced satellite images of suspected Israeli listening stations co-located near schools and medical facilities. Still, the accusations didn't land cleanly. Global reactions swiftly turned the mirror. Editorials from Europe to Asia resurfaced footage from the 2023 Gaza campaign, where Israeli jets blanketed entire city blocks in what analysts then called carpet bombing. Over 100,000 Palestinians were killed, and thousands more wounded, in strikes that often made no distinction between Hamas strongholds and refugee camps. One United Nations health official, speaking anonymously, offered a sharp retort. "When your Air Force levels hospitals from the air, moral outrage over a missile misfire rings hollow." Now, in the wake of Beersheba's trauma, the debate has turned bitterly ironic. Which side truly weaponizes civilian lives? The answer is tangled in history, and for the people caught in the crossfire, the distinction means little. As the conflict escalates from artillery to atrocity, global human rights organizations have stepped into the arena, not with weapons, but with documentation. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, HRW, and the Israeli civil society group B'Tselem have issued parallel condemnations, not just of current violence, but of the precedents that made it possible. B'Tselem, long critical of Israeli military doctrine, recently released a damning report calling the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, the only modern army to systematically use civilians as human shields. Their findings describe IDF soldiers forcing Palestinian residents to enter potentially booby-trapped buildings, or placing non-combatants near windows to deter return fire. In one verified case, a 12-year-old boy was ordered to search bags suspected of containing explosives while armed soldiers watched from cover. This historical stain undermines Israel's current moral outrage. In Beersheba and Tel Aviv, civilians are now the ones running, not toward bombs, but from them. Cluster munitions leave unexploded remnants scattered in yards, rooftops, and schoolyards. Entire families have abandoned homes for fear of hidden bomblets. It is, ironically, a grim echo of Gaza. The Geneva Conventions make clear civilian lives cannot be traded for tactical advantage. Yet in this war, that line blurs with each crater and corpse. A Human Rights Watch spokesperson summarized it bitterly. Civilian suffering is no longer an unintended consequence. It is part of the strategy. Every rooftop bombed, every child crying beneath rubble, reveals what this war truly targets: humanity itself. This isn't just a military confrontation. It's a moral collapse in real time. The battlefield in the Middle East has entered a new phase, not just of escalation, but transformation. At the center of this shift is a missile, the Sigil, Iran's crown jewel of ballistic deterrence. A two-stage solid-fuel weapon with a range of up to 2,500 kilometers, the Sigil can be launched from mobile platforms, bypassing traditional detection timelines and exploiting gaps in early warning systems. Unlike liquid-fueled missiles that require hours of preparation, the Sigil can be fired in minutes, giving Iran a rapid strike capacity that severely complicates Israeli defense planning. With a 700 kilonewton warhead, it is capable of obliterating hardened military infrastructure, or, as recent events have shown, entire city blocks. On June 18th, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, confirmed that Sigil missiles were deployed as part of Operation True Promise 3, striking what they claimed were Israeli radar systems and intelligence outposts. However, satellite analysis from commercial platforms, including Maxar, suggests at least one missile landed near a commercial district in northern Haifa, raising uncomfortable questions about target selection or misfires. Israel's famed defense architecture, especially the Arrow 3 and experimental Arrow 4, managed to intercept the majority of incoming threats. But interception is not immunity. At least 2 Sigil missiles reportedly breached the defense grid, hitting near Beersheba's outskirts and triggering emergency lockdowns. Military experts warn that the Arrow systems, while cutting-edge, are not designed to handle saturation of multiple hypersonic-class targets simultaneously. Business Insider reports ongoing recalibration of radar algorithms and interceptor stockpile levels across northern Israel. The Sigil marks more than an escalation. It is a declaration. Iran is no longer signaling capabilities. It is executing them. By doing so, Tehran has redrawn the battlefield not only in geography, but in psychological reach. The era of regional skirmish has ended. Welcome to the domain of mid-tier strategic warfare. While the Sigil has already rewritten the playbook of Middle Eastern missile warfare, Iran's ambitions do not stop there. On the drawing boards in Tehran, and reportedly in advanced prototyping stages, stands a far more formidable instrument, the Kabar, also known by its military designation Khorram Sharf. With a range of 2,000 kilometers and a potential warhead capacity of 1,500 kilograms, the Kebar would be Iran's most powerful surface-to-surface ballistic missile to date. But its true strength lies not merely in payload or distance, it's in precision. Iranian engineers claim the Kebar is equipped with a cutting-edge atmospheric guidance system, capable of delivering strikes with accuracy within 30 meters, independent of GPS or terminal radar, a crucial feature for defeating modern anti-missile defenses. What this means, analysts warn, is surgical strike capability. The Cold War threat of striking the bunker beneath the bunker has returned, one Western military intelligence officer told Defense Weekly. Should Kebar be fielded, Iran could feasibly target Israeli command centers, submarine dry docks, or even U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf, all with near-pinpoint accuracy and minimal advance warning. Israeli strategists are watching closely. While the Arrow 4 and experimental Arrow 5 systems are being fast-tracked, sources within the Israeli Defense Ministry admit that a successful Kebar launch could break through even Israel's layered defense matrix, especially if used in multi-vector, decoy-saturated assaults. The introduction of Kebar would not merely escalate firepower, it would shift doctrine. Nations in the region, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, would need to recalibrate alliances, perhaps drawing closer to the United States or seeking deterrence guarantees. Conflict would no longer be about territory. It would be about technology, preemption, and precision. If this analysis raised questions about civilian danger, strategic logic, or weapons control, comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to continue uncovering the hidden truths and shifting currents of this existential conflict.